Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you, and welcome back to Join the Mahdi. And as always, I'm your host, Ardijan and Mahdi.
And I'm Alexandra Mahdi.
So, all praises due to God. We have actually had some good news lately regarding the case that we talked about earlier in one of the episodes with our Moroccan brothers. Luckily they've actually been released, although they, one of them was sent to a mental institute, and the other one seemed as if he was
been through a lot, basically.
Been through a lot. Nonetheless, we thank God that they have been released, and now they are going to be put on trial, I think on the 15th of March or something of that sort. But we pray that God enforces them, and that God shows the people through their sincerity that they were good people. When they are good people, they are good men who all they did was just promote the fact that the Mahdi is here, and somebody who Muhammad, the king of Morocco, should have been awaiting for if he calls himself Muslim, and if he calls himself, this title that he has given himself called the Prince of the Believers. Well, then the Prince of the Believers, when the Mahdi comes, should allow that the Muslims pay their allegiance and pave the way for the Mahdi to rectify the mistakes of the Muslim nations.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, I guess one mistake that we have to look at right now, and it's not just the Muslim countries, but one mistake that we see time and time again, right? And this is actually probably one of the things that the Mahdi comes with too. Actually, it is one of the things that the Mahdi comes with. We've always said, Alex, that the Mahdi, he comes for the broken, he comes for everybody. He comes to establish a divine just state, and obviously that includes getting people out of the street, out of poverty, and out of a very, very bad lifestyle into the complete opposite. And, one topic that I think we need to talk about today and address is homelessness.
Exactly. The Mahdi, like you said, he comes for the broken man and the broken woman. He comes for the people who have lost hope. So, when we're telling people on this show, we're calling people to join the Mahdi, and we're telling people about the call of the Mahdi. This is because, the call of the Mahdi is the only place in the world which has a solution for all of the world's problems, and our dear sister Alia, basically, she shared with us this video earlier of a homeless man, basically. And it really moved us all, in the studio. Like, it's an extremely moving and extremely sad video. We're going to talk a bit about this topic today. So if we can go to the clip, please, that would be good.
About 8 years ago, my wife got very sick, and she ended up being bedridden for 2 years. And then 6 years ago, she passed. She died on a Friday morning, and by Saturday, by Saturday evening, I was evicted. They got me out of the house that fast. As soon as she died, I was gone. I had health insurance. She died out of network, whatever that means. So that cost me 85 grand. 85 grand, I'm in debt. They want their money.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna cry. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to get back in society, but I can't get back in. They don't want to let you.
If you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
Of course, actually bring her back. That's not gonna happen. No. I really miss paying my bills, believe it or not. That was something we enjoyed doing together. I really miss paying my card bills. Sorry, I don't have a problem. I'm not a deadbeat, I just couldn't do it. And now they leave you out here and you're stuck. You can't get up, and they won't get you up.
That is a heartbreaking video.
Yeah, it's such a sad video, and this man, basically, he's explaining his story that, he was made homeless after his wife died. He wasn't able to claim the health insurance through some kind of technicality. He was left with loads of bills, and he was immediately, after his wife died, he was immediately evicted from his house, and he was made homeless. And he's saying, he just can't get back into society. That is just like the really, really heart-wrenching part. Like, he's just stuck out, like, on the outside, basically. He can't get back in. He's just stuck on the streets, and there's no way for him to get back into life. And this is such a sad video, but unfortunately this isn't like a one-off. There are so many people who are in a really, really similar situation, and I think the one thing that you hear from people who have become homeless is impossible to get out of that situation. Once you're homeless, you can't go out and get a job because you don't have an address. You can't go out and get yourselves like clothes for a job interview because you don't have any money. You don't have any way to start climbing up the ladder, basically. You're stuck right at the bottom, and you're like immediately criminalized by society and immediately looked at like the lowest of the low. And this is just so disturbing, you know, that we have this situation. You know, right now there's like around 150 million people who are without a home, like worldwide, who don't have like a place to live, a safe place to live. And this is just awful, you know, because there is enough homes for everyone to have a home, you know. So it's just like, it's another side effect of this like extremely evil satanic world that we're living in, that we have this situation, you know, we have these people existing, you know, in this life where they're just living on the streets. Basically they're turned into like the criminals of society, you know. People look down on them, people judge them, you know, people want to stay away from them. They say even, you know, don't help those people, like they're hopeless, there's nothing that can be done. And it's like so easy, we saw, you know, for this man, it was so easy for him to actually get into that situation. So this is extremely awful. You know, I remember I was living in London before I came to the community, and I would see like so often, you know, there are just so many people living like rough on the streets there, basically, and the way that they're treated is awful. You know, they have all of these like practices that the businesses around do to prevent people from actually sleeping in their doorways. So like anywhere where it's warm or like semi-comfortable for them to sleep, they would like put up these spikes on the floor to make it impossible. Or if they have benches, they would make the seats sloped so like it's impossible for someone to sleep there. So like literally everything is set up to make these people's lives like as miserable and as horrible as possible. And you know, we're looking at it through the lens of like this capitalist society that we live in, where we say, okay, you know, this is fair, this is just what happens, you know, survival of the fittest. These people, they haven't been able to do what they were supposed to do, but the reality is that this is not right or fair in any way at all, and this is something which is, you know, extremely you know, it's an extremely big crime that this is allowed to happen. And I think a lot of people out there, you know, they look at the situation where we have like all of this suffering and all of this like poverty and homelessness around, and people, they really want to help, but they don't know how to help. And, you know, I think that's what we can talk about a bit today, because, you know, there is a solution to this, you know.
Yeah, it's, I mean, there is a solution, but, you know, whether or not the people want that solution, you know, is up to them. And the solution has been always in front of them. It has always been the savior of mankind, the Mahdi. But before we really talk about the Mahdi, I guess we should talk about this, which is, you know, the man, you know, you could see clearly in the video that he is in pain. You can see clearly in his eyes that he wants to cry. He wants to bawl his eyes out.
Yeah.
He, you know, lost his wife. He lost all of his money. He lost his house. He lost everything. You know, we can clearly see that in the video. And yeah, he's one out of 150 million other people, millions of people all around the world that are unfortunately in the same case and the same standard of living as he is in. And if we can pull up actually an article piece regarding homelessness, I think it would be very, very important for the people to see this. That, yeah, over here we have, in the United States, homelessness hit record high in 2024. Yeah, so this is something that in America, it is a growing problem, by the way,
you know,
Alex.
in other countries in the West as well, you know, for sure it's a growing problem. This is something which is just increasing and increasing as time goes on, you know, as we get like further into this like level of like darkness and injustice that the world is in. You know, it seems like it's just getting worse and worse as time goes by. And over here, it's the image, it says over here, Getty Images, and at the bottom it says homeless migrants pictured in New York City in August. And that is the case. I used to even back in 2014, 2013, I used to roam the streets of New York at night, you know, out of boredom. I would just kind of like just go out into the streets, into, you know, all of the different corners, and you would find that, yeah, there are a lot of homeless people pitching out tents, sleeping on cardboard, sleeping by these like hot heaters that emanate from the ground. And it's a very, very sad condition. I mean, sometimes you would even find children there. Sometimes you'll find people who even hold up signs talking about how it is that they became homeless, and their stories are really, really sad. You know, mothers and fathers and people who opportunity was taken away from them. They were robbed of everything that they had, and they were forced to now beg in the streets of New York, hoping that somebody is going to help them out. That they're hoping that somebody provides for them, and that they're hoping that somebody will help them get back on their feet. And unfortunately, the way that they're seen is that, oh, these are probably
the assumption is that they're junkies who are, if you do help them, they're just going to crash and burn again because they're going to probably spend their money on drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So there's no point of helping
This is
them.
something I used to hear a lot as well, like don't give your money to homeless people, they'll just go and spend it on like drugs. Or getting high. But I think that is just like such another inhumane way of looking at the situation. It's like people are, if they're like actually sleeping out on the streets, like in the middle of a city, like that is such a horrible like way to live. Who are we to judge what they're doing? We're like saying that we're taking away so many of their human rights that they don't even deserve the choice to have money with them. It's like this extreme level of like lack of humanity, and it's really, really evil the way people are looking at it. And we saw in this video this man, like, it's so easy for people to get into that situation. He was someone who was working, he was paying his bills, and it was like a technicality on his health insurance. The system basically cheated him, exactly. And this is how he ended up in this situation. And there are so many people who are not even at this level, but they're close to it. They're working 2 jobs and they can't even afford the basic necessities. They can't really afford proper housing. They're getting by on benefits, and they're living like hand to mouth, and they're very like close to falling into that trap like that man fell into. And this is just wrong. Like it shouldn't be like this, that people are actually even struggling to do the right thing. First of all, if someone like is an addict or someone isn't able to function, they should be helped. They shouldn't be criminalized or like treated like less than human. But the reality is that these other people, they are working, they are trying hard, and they're still not able to like cover the basic cost of living. Like I knew so many people who are like, especially people who are like single parents, and they're just like struggling so much to get by, like working 2 jobs. They still need to claim benefits like in order to pay for their own things, and they're it's just not possible. And the reason for that is because we have this like glaring inequality. We have so many people who have like 2nd and 3rd homes, and that means that families with children, they have to be like cramped into these tiny council flats, because people have these mansions with like 20 or 30 rooms in them, or they have 2nd and 3rd houses, just random like holiday homes as well, that are just left empty the most of the year. And people they're earning like ridiculous wages for their jobs. So people who are doing like normal jobs, like if someone's like a cleaner or something like this, they can't like earn enough to get by basically. And it's just, this whole situation has just, it's just become like insane. It's just completely ridiculous. Like it's extremely evil. And Abu Sadiq from Him Is Peace, he said in one of the episodes that there's like 42 million empty homes. So if we have 150 million homeless people, then for sure, like most homes have like several rooms, and even if they don't, there's clearly enough places for everyone to have like a bed inside, and a safe place to sleep. If these homes weren't empty, these homes are just like not being used. So this is just completely evil that we're allowing this as humanity. Like this is something that is just so bad. There is so much suffering which is happening, which is completely unnecessary. And I think, when we're talking about this subject, we're talking to the people who are like seeing this, and they just don't know what to do about it. I used to look at the world and just wander around thinking like, this doesn't make sense. Like, show me something that makes sense, because like, how can we be living in a world where some people are just going like working a 9 to 5 and they're earning like hundreds of thousands per year. They're going out on these luxury holidays all the time, like spending money on all of these luxury items, where we see some people are working more hours than them and working even harder and doing jobs that actually directly like benefit people and are directly productive, and yet they are struggling so much to get by that they actually cannot like afford to get by. And as society, we just treat those people as less than. The whole world that we're living in, it doesn't make sense. We see these like homeless people sleeping outside religious like institutions and religious buildings and things like this, and this is not like how it was supposed to be. When we actually look at the words of the prophets and messengers, we see that their message was very clearly, you cannot be rich, you cannot be wealthy if you want to get into heaven. That we cannot hoard money. The Quran tells us we cannot hoard money. It says, those who hoard money and don't spend it in the way of Allah, give them tidings of a painful punishment.
Exactly.
Jesus said that it is easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get into heaven, So these are very, very strong, very heavy words, that clearly people have forgotten. And clearly, the religious organizations of today, they have completely forgotten.
No, they have forgotten. And I think one thing that the people have forgotten is they forgot how to be human. I was discussing the other day how, Jesus said something very, very interesting. He said, if a person wants to get into the kingdom of God, they have to be like children.
Yeah.
What's something that children are taught? Children are taught to share and to share in all things. Whether it's candy or toys or food. A parent or a teacher would reprimand a child for being greedy and for being very hoardy in nature. And then they would say, hey, what are you doing? Share that toy with that kid. Or, hey, you have plenty of candy. Share that candy with the other kids. But then for some reason, as we grow older, we're taught to be less human. We're taught to be greedy. We're taught to be animalistic in nature. And honestly, to even say animalistic in nature, I think that's actually an insult to the animals.
Yeah, because, also even in another episode, Abu Sadiq, he's saying, that actually like humans, we're the only species who like have to work this 9-to-5 job in order to be able to survive, because the animals, all of the other species, they depend on the planet, basically. They depend on nature for their sustenance, so they just go and get what they need from the earth. And this is something which is actually possible for humans to do, but we decide to lock ourselves into this weird like system where we have to fulfill our obligations to this like soulless corporations which we're paying all our money to, and are making a huge profit out of us. And it's like we don't need to do that. Like, it's really crazy that we do it, and I think a lot of people, because this is a system which really harms the majority, and it only benefits a very small minority of like extremely evil and very satanic people, who enjoy having this level of control over society. They enjoy hoarding wealth at the expense of others, but for the majority of the people, it's an extremely unpleasant situation to be in, because we're working incredibly hard and we're not getting back what we should. For example, like if someone is just working in a farm, basically, if someone is farming like to get food like for their own selves and for maybe like a small group of other people, like they would get like a reasonable return for their work, they would get back what they were working. But it's like people now, they're working these jobs which don't really like even benefit anyone, but they're actually like the majority of the work they're doing is going on to someone else, because the majority of the profit is going on to someone else. And this is just a system which is like crazy. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and it's really actually depending on us partaking in it, as the majority. So I think, and like we were saying before, it's getting worse and worse. It's getting just completely out of hand right now. And I think, even the people who were like the middle classes now, it's becoming like harder and harder for them to afford a basic cost of living. It's becoming harder and harder for them to afford rent, and to get by in life. And I think, this is when we reach that tipping point. When people are going to say, look, this is like, we can't do this anymore. We need a better system. And the better system is here. It's available for everyone. We just have to decide to take it.
Yeah, and it's a better system. Why? Because we're the only people who are really calling towards humanity first. To call the people back to being actual human beings.
Yeah.
Most people today, unfortunately, what they do is that they hoard wealth, which not even the animals do. You will not find monkeys storing in bananas in their caves or in their huts or in their trees, while the other monkeys starve. You don't see that in any of the animal kingdoms, where animals are pretty much just hoarding, and making sure that other animals suffer. This is not really the case. If anything, the animals, even in their own packs, they make sure that food is readily available for other pack members or other group members or schools of fishes. So, what are the human beings doing then? Well, actually, they're not being human beings and they're not being animals. They're actually being satanic. They're being demonic, because the only people that are okay with having their own people of their own species suffer, starving, and being out in the cold and cheating them of their lives is nothing more than Satan and a spawn of Satan. And one spawn of Satan that I have to bring up that demonstrates this point in a very, very nice way is Cain himself.
Yeah.
Iblis, he was evicted from paradise, right? But okay, he had a home in the planet Earth. He had a chance to repent and then one day go back to paradise. But Iblis chose what he chose. No, I'm going to transgress against God, and I'm going to not prostrate to the Caliph of God, Adam. I'm talking religiously here for a second, but if you can bear with me, we believe that Satan or Iblis had a child with Eve. As crazy as a lot of people might think that to be, this is our belief. It is found in our book, The Goal of the Wise, in the first door, and there's a lot of evidence for this. Why am I saying that it might be crazy for the people? It's because this is something that maybe a lot of people are not aware of, although it is hinted towards and it is actually known in the books, especially the books of the Jews and the Muslims. Now, fast forwarding, we find that Cain was actually the first one to create cities, but he was also the first one to hoard and make a money system. He was basically the first capitalist, pretty much.
Yeah.
But this capitalist mentality basically makes sure that you become evil. It's crazy. You will not find that anybody from the animal kingdom own multiple houses and evict other monkeys or other apes or other animals from their homes. It is only the human being, for some reason, that creates homes, allow them to be vacant for many, many years until a buyer comes in order to buy the property and then hopefully live inside. But we have millions of homes actually all around the world that remain vacant. So if we have all these millions of homes that remain vacant and no one's buying them, and you have citizens in your country that are freezing to death outside or are sleeping in the dirt or in the mud or in the snow, then you cannot be classified as a human being. You are a monster by definition. You are everyone's worst nightmare. You become everything that your parents and your family and every story has warned you against.
Exactly.
You became the Grinch, you became the Scrooge, you became everything horrible. And now you have to look at yourself in the mirror every day knowing that that's who you are now.
Exactly. And Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, he actually echoed the words of Jesus, in one of the recent episodes as well. He said, if you're rich, then you're going to hellfire. He said it very simply, basically, because if you hoard money, if you hoard wealth while other people are suffering, then you cannot have faith. And it's as simple as that. And, this is the message that all of the prophets and messengers they came with. And I think we have a caller on the line. Nasser, salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, brother.
Salam rahmatullahi barakatuh to both of you. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Brother. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Thank you very much for asking. I've got a question in relation to the topic.
Sure.
So it's obviously, it's obvious to me anyway, that the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, it emphasizes justice and charity, and the implementation of the true Islamic governance under the just and divine leadership of the appointed Imam of our time.
Yes.
So given that homelessness is a major global issue, it's not just localized to us in the UK, but it's actually a major global issue, and you've made that point. How does our religion propose practically, systematically, the solutions that go beyond just personal charity? Would an just divine state under our Imam Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, would it eradicate completely homelessness entirely?
Yeah.
And if so, what are the mechanisms that are going to be put in place to ensure that no one is actually left without shelter? Because there may still be people out there who, even though this exists, they may not even be aware that this exists. So, how do we address those situations?
Yeah, look, I understand. It's kind of like it's almost hard to imagine, because the world we live in today, we're so used to seeing homeless people, and we're so used to seeing this level of poverty. But the divine just state, all homelessness and all poverty will be eradicated. Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, he said in one of his sermons, in the divine just state, you will go out to feed the poor, you will go out to help the homeless, and you will find none, basically, because you will find, no people who are in that condition. And that is because in the divine just state, no one is allowed to hoard more than they need. There were also, he also said, in the sermon that it is harder. He mentioned this, speech by Jesus where he said it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to get into heaven. And he said, it's even harder for a rich person to get into our divine just state. Okay, so you cannot be wealthy and live in the divine just state. You cannot hoard money at the expense of others. And we know, that there is enough sustenance, there is enough space in the world for everyone to have a home. So, if we don't have these people hoarding wealth and hoarding houses, then for sure there's going to be enough for everyone, And in the divine just state, it's going to be different. We won't have like our own wealth, Eventually, money will be completely eradicated and people will like operate by the system of bartering basically. So they're working, in order to uphold the state basically. They're working for like love of the divine just state and love of their fellow human being. And this is something, for sure it's maybe a hard situation to imagine now, but
it's hard to imagine, but it's something that will come into fruition.
It's something that we can only achieve, when we're all following the divine leader, when we're all like obeying him and working under his instructions, then this is the only way a state like this will work. And this is why it's so important that we follow the leader who is appointed by God.
And I can say, Nasser, is that we already have a demo of the divine just state and how that works right here in our community. Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, would never, and we would never, because he's taught us that, allow that any of the Ansars here go without food or shelter or water. The Imam, he told us very clearly years ago that basically treat each other as if you would treat the Imam. Treat each other as if you would treat Abu Sadiq, from him his peace. So if we would never allow that Abu Sadiq ever go hungry, or that Abu Sadiq never goes thirsty or without a home, we cannot allow that even for the believers or for the people of the divine just state. So, the way that I've seen him and the way that he works it out is that is this golden rule that he said is in all religions, which is treat one another the way that you would like to be treated. If you do not like to be homeless, then you cannot allow anybody to go homeless. And a golden rule that the Imam said, he said, if anybody is to follow me, then, he cannot and he should not allow that his brother go hungry while he is full. He cannot allow that his brother he can allow that he himself sleeps on a bed while his brother sleeps without a bed. So if you are a brother who has food while your neighbor doesn't have food, you have to give your food to your neighbor.
If you're not being a believer otherwise.
And if you're a person who has a bed while your brother is without a bed, you would give up your bed for your brother. This is how we work as a community, and this is how we work in the divine just state. And that's something that we're going to implement in the divine just state, that the ruler of it would never allow that this whole disgusting thing called homelessness ever exists. Like Abu Sadiq abhors it, he hates it, and this is something that we as human beings need to understand, that this is not normal. And I think that's the crazy thing, Alex, is that homelessness, they teach you at an early age that this is just something normal in society. It's something that can never be avoided.
It's just a part of life that we accept.
It's just a part of life.
100%.
But that's the whole lie. That's a lie. So Nasser, I hope that answers your question. And for sure, Abu Sadiq, the way that he's going to do it is that for sure there's going to be homes, and he would not allow a single home to be vacant except that somebody is living there.
Absolutely. You have answered it, and it actually the whole answer that you gave, the full scope of your answer, it gave me a lot of understanding and context about some of the situations I've been in previously. I have been, the reason why I'm asking is because I have been in situations for many years where I've been homeless, not just like a day here or a day there. I have been homeless. I've slept in fields, empty fields. My wife and my children have been with me as well at some of these points. And, we were following misguided teachings and the very people claiming they have leadership. They have no understanding of anything that you have said. So, it really is a testament to the faith that, you've come and you're speaking on behalf of Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, and you're passing this information over to people like me who have been in such a situation where, I can honestly say it's not just something for the last year or two where I've been in that situation, but this is since I was 15, 16 years old, sleeping inside people's cars and sleeping underneath bus shelters, to try and survive when there was nobody out there for me. So, when you say that the believers, they will carry their homes on their back, I really do understand that. And, I do appreciate that you've answered the question, because you've actually settled a big issue of mine. You've made my heart content from the answer that you've given me. So, I appreciate it. And, labbaik ya Abu Sadiq.
Labbaik ya Abu Sadiq. Thank you so much, Nasser, for coming up.
And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And God bless you, Nasser. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah, that it is difficult, and I hope that you never go homeless again, Nasser. And I hope that the people out there are not homeless, and I hope that, and it will happen. It will happen, and that's what we're working towards. We're working towards a divine just state, not for just the believers, but even for the people who are not believers, because it's not right, And I think that's a problem with that has turned off a lot of people from religion. A lot of religions. They became corrupted, and even a sense of being a human being where you have to, only take care of your own people and forget about everybody else because your people come first. One day Ahmed al-Hassan from his peace had asked the people, this was a few years back, where we were watching this conversation take place between the Imam alayhi salam and some of the believers at that time. And then he asked this question as to, okay, guys, look, what would you do, hypothetically speaking? You have a person, he's a believer. Okay, you're that person, right? And a person comes to you, thirsty. It's an atheist with his child. What would you do, right? So some people, they started giving various answers at that time. One person said, I would give it to the atheist, so he sees compassion and he becomes affected by this action, and that this would be a way for him to join the dawah. Another person said, "Oh, I would give the water to the child." There was a bunch of various different answers, but the correct answer that the Imam loved so much was just a simple answer of, I would give it to the kid.
Yeah,
I would give it to the kid,
regardless of religion.
Regardless of religion. So like the guy, and that's the thing that the Imam loved so much was that the people were giving answers, but they were saying their reasoning. Their reasoning was what? Their reasoning was, I'll do it so that this way our dawah looks good.
Yeah.
But the man, when he answered, he said, I'm giving it to the kid. But that said, he didn't give an answer as to why. But the Imam knew in his heart why he would give it to the kid. And the Imam said, exactly, humanity comes first before religion. We're not here to give people water. We're not here to feed the people so this way they can be affected by the call. We're feeding people, we're helping people, and we're calling the people because we love the people and we are human beings ourselves, and we need to take care of one another despite religion.
Exactly. What is the point of religion? What is the purpose of religion? We always get asked so many times on these live streams, how do you guys pray? Like, what's the prayer in the seventh covenant, or what's the prayer of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light? How many times a day do you pray? And these aren't really the questions we should be asking ourselves. We should be asking ourselves, how does the religion we're following benefit the people? How does it alleviate suffering? How does it actually get people closer to God? And Abba Sadiq from his peace, he's actually said, true prayer is housing the homeless. True prayer is feeding the poor. That is the true meaning of prayer. Like, to go out and help your brother and sister, to look after each other, to put other people first, to treat other people in the way that we want to be treated. And this is how we actually build a better world. We build a paradise on earth. There's no point in going and praying 5 times a day if you've got homeless people outside your door and you're not even doing anything to help them. If your neighbor is can't afford food and you're just making sure that you pray these extra prayers and get everything done and perform these rituals, what is that benefiting? It's not benefiting anything at all. There's no benefit in these religious organizations. There's no benefit in these churches with homeless people outside them. There's no benefit in these wealthy religious organizations which don't help people who need the money and just hold on to the money, and they ignore the teachings of Jesus, the Prophet Muhammad, and Imam Ali, and all of the other prophets. What's the point of them? What is the point of religion? We have to ask ourselves what makes sense. We have to look for something that makes sense, that we can actually be certain of, because the religions today, they don't make sense. Okay, they're just these really weird money-making organizations that hoard money. They don't help the people. They don't do anything to help society. They don't provide a good system for us to live by. They're just these part-time hobbies for the people, basically, for people who have enough money. And for sure, it doesn't make any sense that we can see, especially my experience, in the UK, seeing these churches with homeless people sleeping outside them, or Westminster Cathedral or something like that, which has got so much money pumped into it. What's the point of that? Is that what Jesus was telling us to do? That's the opposite of what he was telling us to do.
Sure.
So how can we have this religion which is so focused on Jesus? It doesn't make any sense, guys. And Like it was really like quite moving to hear like Nasser share his story, to be honest, because like I think so many people have been in a situation like this, and religion is supposed to help them. Religion is supposed to help people. It's supposed to bring people out of that situation
and not put them in it.
Exactly, yeah. So the whole point is that we are supposed to have this divine just state, and it was really good that he asked this question, because it's very important. This is the solution, and it's something that it is hard for us to imagine at the moment, because we're so desensitized and used to the situation that we have right now. But the divine just state is something where we would never have these problems. These problems would be actually unimaginable to us, as the solutions are unimaginable now, because we would, if we are all following and obeying this man who is appointed by God, if we're all living our lives in the way that he's told us to, then these situations would never occur. And it's something that is extremely evil and extremely satanic that we have got to this extent that so many people are in these situations.
Yeah, it is a terrible situation. And by the way, something that I have to say, because you're talking about the Christians and you're talking about the cathedrals and all the money that's being pumped into them. The Roman Catholic Church is worth billions of dollars, and that's something that we've understood, and this is something that we've talked about many of times. But Alex, I want to ask you something. What day is it today?
Saturday, the 1st of March.
Okay, Saturday, the 1st of March. What day is it now for the Muslims? It's, because here's the thing, we don't really keep track of this too much, right? Because we're not following it. We're not following the lunar calendar of the Muslims, but it is actually the first day of Ramadan for the Muslims.
Right.
So, why am I bringing this up? Because I really want to pull up this chart right now for the people to understand something, for all those who claim to be Muslim. Look at this chart. Homelessness and housing costs, right? Okay, so we have over here, look at the blue, right? The blue is number of homeless individuals, right? So from 2006, homelessness was around 650,000. And at one point it was going down. And then after 2018, it went up slightly. But then for some reason, 2022, all the way up until 2024 and up until now, it is skyrocketing. It's skyrocketing, and we can see even in the greens where the housing prices are also going up. So homelessness is going up, but why is it going up? It's also because you can't even afford to even be in your own house.
Yeah.
So I have now a challenge for the Muslims out there. Look, it's their holiday now, right? Right? Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan for us has always been in December. For them right now, because they follow lunar calendar, their Ramadan is in March this year. If you all claim to be people of God, people who are fasting for the sake of God, and that the reason why you're fasting, and that's what the Muslims also say too, and that's what we agree with too, is that when you fast, you feel the pain of those who are without.
Yeah.
You feel the pain of those who are thirsty and those who are hungry. So if you believe that this is a month of Ramadan, then I want you in this month of Ramadan to fix this homeless issue. I want you guys to actually pull in your money together and to actually help the people. And by helping one another, help those in your own country, not just by giving £5. I mean, what are you doing with £5? You're just going to make the guy like maybe eat a sandwich, and then the next day he's starving again.
Yeah, what good is it actually going to do?
It's not going to do anything. So what the Muslims actually need to do, if they call themselves united, is help one another. There are millions of Muslims around the world who are homeless, and not just Muslims. There are millions of people around the world that are homeless. We need to just cut out the nonsense that we are living in and be human beings again. But here's the thing, and I know this for a fact, that the kings and the prime ministers and the rulers of the Muslim countries and the scholars are not going to help all these people. I guarantee you that. And they'll give you the same excuses time and time and time again that, hey, the Habibi, this is the decree of Allah. If Allah wanted them to be in a house and if Allah wanted them to be successful, He would have done so.
Yeah.
But we're the only people, and that's the challenge for the Muslims, is that we're the only people with the solution. And our solution has always been a divine just state, the state of who you believe to be a prophet, who we say is a prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, came with the solution, which was to make that united ummah, to make a divine just state. And once you make that divine just state, allow that the person who is appointed by God remain in rulership and that his successor be the one in power, because nobody who is appointed by the people is going to care for the people.
Yeah.
It's only the person appointed by God who is going to care for the people and ensure that homelessness becomes a thing of the past?
You know, I was just thinking of something while you were saying all of this, you know, like, because what, you know, if we're talking about, you know, the people who are Muslims, right, like helping people who are homeless and who really need it, you know, what are actually the rights of believers over each other? Because Abu Sadiq from his piece, he made it very clear in another recent episode, you know, if someone is actually going without, then it's the right of the right, and someone has, you know, for example, say if you have money, right, and I need something, it's actually my right to just go and take the money out of your pocket, go and buy what I need.
People today would consider that stealing.
Exactly, because we are one, you know, so it's not your right to hold on to the money while I'm in need of something. Like, that is actually illegal in the eyes of God, you know, that is a crime. So, you know, when we're talking about this like level of inequality, you know, people, they're so far away right now from you know, the true rights, you know, upholding the true rights of one another. You know, this man that we saw in the beginning of the episode, this man who's homeless, you know, it's actually his right to go and find one of these empty homes and live in it. You know, it's you know, we would call it trespassing, but it's not. We have the right to do that. We have the right to go and take our sustenance from the earth. We have the right to take our share. You know, when people are holding on to their share, we call it capitalism, right? When people are holding on to more than their share and holding on to other people's shares, we call that legal, but actually that's not legal in the eyes of God. Where what would be legal is for us to go and take our share, basically, to take back what people have stolen from us. You know, this is, it's completely like, it's so far away from the true way that we should be living, you know. So when people are thinking, you know, I'll just go and give £5 to someone and help them out, you know, this is like, they're not even like close to fulfilling their obligations towards the people, you know. If you have money while people are starving, you know, that money is illegal to you. It's haram, you know. It's evil to hold on to it, and it's satanic actually to do that while people are starving. And you know, we will never get anywhere as humanity unless we get to this stage where we can accept this and we can realize this, you know, that we are not allowed to hold on to more than our fair share.
You know, for the people to understand, you know, just how weird it is to just give £5 away. It's like imagine having a whole big plate of food right in front of you.
Exactly, yeah.
And then somebody comes and you see that they're starving, and from this giant plate of rice that you have, you take not even a tablespoon, you take a teaspoon, and then you feed the person this teaspoon and say, you know, that should be enough for you.
You're welcome. That was so nice of me.
No, I mean, that's how crazy it is.
It is, though.
Imagine £5 while you have thousands upon thousands. Yeah. You're insane.
And this is the situation that we're used to as humanity, so we don't even see it as crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But like it is, you know. And, you know, in the divine just state as well, you know, another thing that Abu Sadiq from his pieces explained, you know, that when humanity was living in the Garden of Eden, right, they would just want something and it would materialize in front of them. If they wanted like an apple, they would just find an apple in front of them. You know, they would be in this state where they're relying on God and God provides for them, you know. So it's like basically just like letting go of control and letting God look after us. And this is the natural state that we should be in as humanity, okay? And this is how we can actually get to, you know, because the world, it can provide abundance for us, you know. God, he is providing abundance for us, but it's just humanity that we're the ones who've like carved everything up, divided everything up, and like you know, hoarded or like more than our share, and like taken hold of all of these you know, everything basically. And this is the reason basically that we're in this like state of lack, basically. Like we always feel like we don't have enough. We're in this like survival panic mode where we feel like we have to hoard and have to hold on to more than our fair share. But this is like it's not a natural way to live, basically.
It is completely unnatural. It is inhumane. It is just, I mean, is there a word to describe anything except demonic? I mean, I'm trying to really find a better word for it, but I mean, that's the only thing that I can find. Look, if we're going to continue on this planet, well, we have to all get along. We really have to just stop bickering amongst ourselves. We have to stop dividing each other amongst different tribes and nationalities, and we really have to just become one human, like one nation, one human being, one people. I mean, human beings, for crying out loud, you know, despite our differences. And you know, God bless all those who have believed in this call. But now is, I believe, the time for action. You know, now is the time for actually helping build that divine just state. And if we so can, actually, we have up next the show, A New Islam, or The New Islam, with Brother Hussam and Hussaman. But before we continue on to that show, let's pull up, if we can, the QR code for this petition that we are really trying desperately to spread and have the people sign, a petition for refugee land, so that this way we can create a home for 45 million people all around the world. 45 million people all around the world who are refugees,
who don't have a home.
Who don't have a home. So go and check that out on change.org and type in refugee land. We have the QR code on the screen. Scan that QR code and please sign the petition. Let's reach over 1,000 signatures, and then after 1,000 signatures, let's make it 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000.
Exactly. I just want to add one more thing before we finish. You know, lots of people who see these issues in the world that we're talking about and they want to help, you know, but they feel like powerless to do so. They feel there's no real solution. You know, the only solution is the divine just state. This is the ultimate cause. If you want to help people, if you want to change the world that we're living in, this is the only cause to support, is to support the man who is appointed by God to build like a just and fair world for us all to live in together.
And that's all that we have today, and take care. And tomorrow, inshallah, we'll be talking more regarding issues of the world today. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.